Hello, my name is Nareda Nunez, and I would like to welcome you to my future presentation assignment. So let's get started with what I want to share with you because I am very excited to talk about podcast. Okay, why podcast? Okay, there's a big question mark. We have been hearing about this word and this new technology used in the classroom, and I would like to share with you because I'm very excited to have been using it in the classroom, and I would like to share with you what exactly is podcasting. Okay, so but why podcast? Why should we integrate this into our lesson plans as educators? Well, the one reason that I love using podcasts is because of classroom management. We all know that after a couple of minutes of us lecturing, students will they will be disengaged, their minds will be wandering, and they might be thinking about something else. And the bottom line is that they get bored very quickly, right? And when they're bored, they start thinking about other things. We as teachers lose control of what we're trying to teach them and trying to pull them back in. Sometimes it's kind of difficult, right? So, what do we do? What do we do to keep our students engaged at all times from the moment that bell rings for the beginning of class until the dismissal? What can we do to keep our students engaged and learning? Well, let's go to the source. Let's go to technology, right? So we all know that students are always using technology, especially those cell phones. We all know as educators that they try to sneak in their cell phones and try to see who texted them or perhaps see who posted what and whatnot, right? And we've been there, we've done that. So we know that 95% of teens ages 12 to 17 are online. And this is based on research that was done by Jana Anderson and Lee Rainey. 95% of teens ages 12 to 17 are already online. And 76% of these teens use social networking sites. And 77% already have cell phones, right? So let's do something. Let's fight fire with fire. Let's use what we already have, right? So, what does podcast allows us to do? Podcast, we can actually kill two birds with one stone with podcasting, right? So, how do we do that? Well, how? Well, remember back in 2020 when schools closed down, the entire world basically stood at a standstill, and we had to teach from home. And we were all trying to scramble. We were all scrambling, trying to figure out how to Zoom, how to do the lessons virtually, and how difficult it was. Well, if we have podcasting in our Google Classroom, if we have these podcasts already set in our Google Classroom, they are very easy to access, right? We only require Wi Fi. It only requires Wi Fi to get connected and a device. Plain and simple. It's very, very simple to use. And the benefits of having a podcast as part of your class, well, let's take a look. See how do students and we as educators benefit from having podcasts as part of our classroom assignments and whatnot. Okay, so it's available 24/7. Imagine that. A recorded podcast is available anytime. It doesn't matter if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. It's available every single time, 24 hours a day. But what about if a student has to miss school for whatever reason? Maybe a doctor's appointment, a dental appointment, perhaps they're not feeling well, perhaps they're just having a family matters that they need to tend to, right? And they have to miss class. Well, there's no problem because when you record your lessons and instructions and you post them on a podcast, this offers the students who might have missed the class the chance to hear the lecture and the audio form. Okay, and this is coming from another research by Sabo. Okay, so it doesn't matter. You don't have They don't have to be thinking about, oh, who can give me their notes. You know how back in the days they had to copy the notes from other students if they were absent? Well, not anymore. They all have to do is just, put on their headphones and listen to the podcast, your instructions, your lectures, and they'll be fit to go, right? And another thing, The third thing, the convenience of listening is everywhere. It's in anywhere. So they can be walking in a park, just strolling down the park, doing their daily exercise, and they can be listening to a podcast. They can be driving, they can be in a car, they can be listening to your podcast. And even if they're at home, they're just chillaxing, they're chilling, and they're able to hear the podcast. So it's very convenient in that way because it doesn't have to be a specific place where they have to be in order to listen to podcasts. Isn't that great? And not only that, what happens if you're sick? Now, we all know that when teachers are absent from school, for students' instruction is actually disrupted, right? Because we have to assign like worksheets for them to fill out, working on their own. Sometimes when you leave assignments for them to do, they don't understand what they need to do. The substitute doesn't know what to do with them because the substitute is only there like actually to like babysit for them, and we have to give them like work for the students to do on their own, but many times it's more like busy work for them. Not anymore. A podcast, when done correctly and in advance, would allow the teacher to actually be able to miss school without the students interrupted from their learning. And that's plain and simple. Okay. So you put everything, you upload everything, you put it in Google Classroom, and the students are able to listen to it. They're able to listen to the instructions, the explanations, and they are fit to go. They're good to go. Okay. This is my favorite, however. You can differentiate class assignments. We all know that students learn at different places and they would learn in different ways, right? So when we differentiate the class assignments, we can actually post something. We can post something for this class and we can post something for the other class. And that way they're able to actually do the same assignment, but they're able to do it in different ways and come to the same thing. Okay. So there's different ways to get to downtown. You can go either Highway 5, you can go down Main Street, or you can go down Lane Road. Okay. And they all meet at the same place. So it's the same thing with this differentiated class assignments. You can actually assign different things, but it all comes down to the main goal, and they reach the main goal at different paces. Main goal, and that is my train of thought here. Okay, so because we all learn differently, and that's why we have to think about those students that learn differently, right? And finally, this is the catcher. Okay, I love this. It is inexpensive. You don't have to put much money into it. If anything, it's free. New apps are popping up every day. Okay. So it makes it very easy to actually create podcasts because there's tons of apps that we can use to create podcasts. And it becomes a record of what's being taught. So perhaps you might forget, oh, well, I said this or I didn't say that. And all you have to do is just listen back to whatever it was that you recorded on that podcast, and it'll be recorded. Also, check this out. You can also check to see if your lessons are actually aligning with the standards. So it is very easy for you to create a podcast. You can sit back, you can listen to it, you can reflect, you can take notes on it, and also for improvement. Many times we do not like to see ourselves being videotaped. I, for one, don't like being videotaped. But with podcasting, you're actually able. You're not being videotaped, but you are being recorded, so you can hear your voice, and you can actually critique yourself. Well, do I need to do away with this? Do I need to emphasize that? It is very, very simple and very easy. And it's also a tool that we are able to use for our own growth as professional educators. And I think this is all for now. And I hope that you like my presentation of why podcast in the class. I hope that you get on the bandwagon as I have, and that you also are able to implement your podcast into your daily lessons or weekly lessons in class. Thank you and have a good one.